Ahoy! From Clara Barton, National Historic Site. Thank you.
I just saw the mosaic group on the meetup for the first night.
Afternoon, Ranger.
Hello.
Photography allowed inside?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Oh, they have been.
We're going to go all the way down to
What's
the
your camera?
Oh, it's a GoPro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you said you were gonna photograph, yeah.
Yeah.
Even the mold is entertaining.
You know, I don't think I have ever been in this house. I've been here for so long.
I know.
And I've never been.
I've spent so much time at Glen Echo and I've never been in here.
Me too, I go I go dancing now.
Oh, I saw that
You can
too.
go down here, but
What time do you
we
do?
have some bench here. Maybe you want to use the bench. We got a chair there.
Swing, contra, and...
Well,
Reese, come sit over here and let's see how that seat. I think I'm gonna sit down.
Has anyone ever been through before?
Yes.
15 years ago.
15 years ago, we had furniture.
Yeah.
We have furniture now. Yeah, we have furniture then too. So, well, a lot of people when they come in for the very first time are really kind of astounded by how big the house is. It is a rather large house, and if you think of it as the home for just one woman, it's a great big house with over 35 rooms in it. It really
Wow.
seems a bit much. But Clara Barton wasn't just one woman, she was an entire organization.
Yeah.
So this building was Clara Barton's home the last 15 years of her life. It also served as the national headquarters for the American Red Cross during 7 of those years. So that's the main reason why it's so big. It served as both office, headquarters, warehouse, and Miss Barton's home, all under one roof. Now the reason it ends about here in Glen Echo, Maryland, deals with the original development of Glen Echo. Has anybody been next door to Glen Echo?
yep.
There you go. Did you go recently?
Yeah, about an hour ago.
Okay. Drive to Carousel?
Yeah. I didn't go on the.
You wrote the carousel.
I wrote it on the carousel night, the carousel day.
Oh yeah, on the
I also volunteered for the swing,
29th, right?
yeah.
Yeah, when April 28th or 29th when it opened for the
Yeah,
season?
not that long ago.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, it was great at night, too.
It
I could
is.
wear it at night.
It's
and wear
magical
it.
at
They
night.
had it open at night,
Yep.
that night.
The lights make such a difference at night.
Oh.
Yeah, it really is. Well, if you've been to Glen Echo, then you've been to the place that is the reason Clara Barton lives here. And if you haven't been, you're certainly welcome to go afterwards. If you cut through the parking lot, the left-hand corner, it's just on the other side of Minnehaha Creek. So you can go across the footbridge and get over there. Carousel will unfortunately close at 5 today. If you're going to ride the carousel, I'll have to let you out early so you can get over there. But this is what it used to look like in Glen Echo Park. And if you've not been over there before, when you get over there, it will look anything at all like this. Everything has changed except the stone tower. The stone tower is still over there. In the poster where there's this little pond and a little fountain, this is where Carousel sits. Now if you're getting your passport stamp, there's a place called Popcorn Gallery right here. You go in on the first floor behind the Popcorn Gallery, and they have a little table in there by the timeline to get the Glen Echo Park stamp over there. So it'd be across from Carousel. But originally this is what it looked like next door. And Glen Echo was developed by 2 brothers. They were twins, Edward and Edwin Baltsley. So Ed and Ed had purchased about 900 acres of land out here. And they have 2 things they need to do. They have to build a reason for people to come to Glen Echo. And that's what you see in this poster. Their reason is the Glen Echo Chautauqua Assembly. And in order to make some money back, they also have to have a place for people to stay, and that's the community of Glen Echo, which is over here. So the brothers, it's not like a modern housing development where you see like somebody's gone in and cleared a bunch of trees and put up a whole bunch of houses and all the houses are for sale all at once. It's not like that. The brothers need to sell property lots. So they need people to come out, purchase land from them, then build their own houses. And the brothers need to recoup some money for the cost of their Chautauqua Assembly on selling property lots. So they figured if they had someone very famous, very well respected, settle in the community, that would draw others out to them, and they choose Clara Barton, angel of the battlefield, founder of the American Red Cross. Free house. So kind of hard to pass on a free house. So she gets to tell them what she wants, and that is what she wants for her free house. So if you were offered a free house, but is that the first thing you would choose for a free house? No? I think a lot of people wouldn't be thinking that way either.
It's a little large.
It is large,
I want a house like
but she needs a warehouse. You want a house like this? Well, that's that one right there. So this is actually Johnstown, Pennsylvania, which had suffered a flood in 1889. Devastating flood. Over 2,000 people lost their lives. Most of the community completely destroyed. Very little housing left for anyone to even have shelter in this community. And this is one of the disasters that the very young, very early American Red Cross responded to. So Clara Barton has been running the American Red Cross for 8 years when this disaster occurred.
8.
Yep, how old are you?
How old are you? How old are you?
4.
4. So she was running the American Red Cross for 2 times you when that happened. So she takes the organization up into this community, and so typically what she would do when she arrives in a community that's had a disaster, she would work with the community leaders, and they would be offered a place to work from, like given a building they could function out of, a place where they could set up their operations from. Johnstown was so devastated that really wasn't an option. So what they found they had to do in order to function in this community for several months was build their own buildings. So this is one of the shelters they built, this is one of the warehouses. It's referred to as a hotel, but it was really a shelter. So, and that particular property belonged to a church. So they were offered property from the church to use temporarily. They built these buildings. It took about 3 weeks, about 3 weeks to get this built. And they ran their operations from this building. And she found this design very flexible, very useful. They fed meals to 30, 40 people at a time. They could have families staying in this building. They also could distribute supplies from this building. So it's a very useful design. And that's what she told the Balsley brothers she wanted here for her free home. So her Glen Echo home is not an exact duplicate of the Johnstown shelters, but it's based off the architectural idea of that type of building. And that's why she ended up here, and that's why she ended up in this for her home. Now they give her the house in 1891. She doesn't actually, she doesn't actually move in for 6 years. She moves in 97. So for 6 years, this building is used just as a warehouse. And when she moves into it, she has to finish it. So it didn't look like this when it was given to her. So she moves out here in 1897. She has to convert the home and finish it off. And one of the things that she still needs is a place to store Red Cross relief supplies. So she has to continue using the building as a warehouse, but incorporate living quarters for staff, offices, parlors, her own 1 room in her 30-room plus house. But keeping supplies here, she finishes this entire hallway out of closets. Did you guys see those when you came in?
No.
No? That's what she wanted. She didn't want you to see them. So she didn't want them to be necessarily secret, but she wanted them concealed. And so this one that's representing some of the type of supplies that she would have stored here, this whole hallway was built out of these closets. So it's kind of a neat way she brought the house together. Now she's doing this out of her own expense, and she doesn't have a great deal of money to spend on this. So she has to be really careful with where she's spending money. The typical building material for her time, the 1890s, for ceilings and walls, for instance, would have been plaster. And she cuts a lot of cost out in this particular house by avoiding that common building material and instead using bandage material. If you notice the hallway ceiling here, most of this is original. It's cotton muslin that was kept in its large sheets, nailed over the beams, and originally it would have been painted. Now in some areas of the house she also used a paper backing, so you'd have had the builder's paper, the cotton muslin, and then the paint. And that made a ceiling and wall finish. And if you notice the Red Cross office is straight back, they could finish a room of that size in about 1 day. And the front parlor, which we'll see in a bit, was done with plaster. It took over a month just to finish one room. Also, she had to have work crews come in to do the plastering in the front parlor. This work, she can literally do some of this work herself. She's 75 years old, standing on a ladder, wearing a dress and boots, and has hammer in hand, nailing this stuff herself. She's doing it. She's not paying herself. She has Red Cross staff. They're volunteers. They're here. She's not paying them either. They can stay here. They're going to get fed here. But if she's doing this work and she's using her staff, she's saving an enormous amount of money. So it's kind of a neat way that she got things together. So these things, can I borrow you two for a minute? Come here for a minute. Let me see. Do you know what to do? Do you know what to do if you have a simple first aid? Like you fall down and you get a cut on your hands, or a cut on your elbows, or a cut on your knees. Do you know what to do? No?
What do you put on?
What do you do?
A Band-Aid.
A Band-Aid. What do you do before the Band-Aid?
Neosporin.
Neosporin. Wow.
Good job.
Plain old soap and water can work too. So let's pretend. You want to pretend for a second? No? You don't want to pretend? No? All right. You want to let me pretend?
Yeah, let me.
Okay. So let's pretend. Turn around for a minute. Let them see you. Let's pretend that you have. No, let me see your hands. Let's pretend you have a cut on your hand. So you would wash the wound, right? Then you would put that Neosporin on it, right? Or anything else that works in that same way. And then you've got your Clara Barton Band-Aid. So you would put your Band-Aid over the area that's cut, wrap it around, and you see it has these two tails. You run them opposite each other, and then you tie them on. And that's very simple, very basic first aid. And that's the same material her ceilings and walls are made of.
Wow.
You're really in the heart of the house. The Red Cross office here, the one that we're standing in, was the one that Miss Barton would use. Next to us is the one that her staff would usually be working in. And then the dining room is back here as well. Now, Clara Barton is the founder of the American Red Cross, but she's not founder of Red Cross. Red Cross is an international organization. It started originally in Switzerland, and it was started to help victims of war. Clara Barton in the American Civil War becomes very famous. She earns her nickname Angel of the Battlefield, pretending to the wounded during the American Civil War. From Massachusetts, pro-Union, in her beliefs of the war and the support of the war efforts, she will care for the wounded of both armies when on the battlefield. 1863, we start bringing in African American men to serve in the Army, and the Army had a pretty bad track record as the war progresses of meeting the needs of the African American soldiers, and Clara Barton will make sure that their needs are met as well. So she is providing neutral and partial assistance to the victims of war, because in her heart, it's what she's doing to make a difference. Not because of any agreements or any treaty or any organization. This has come out of her to do this work. So she knows nothing at all about Red Cross. And it is ironically formed in Switzerland in 1863. So President Lincoln was invited, and he is, as President of the United States in a country that's involved in war, just a little too busy to sail to Switzerland to talk about something that may or may not come together, and then to sail back home. But he sent somebody over, they go over, they report. Essentially, it's passed on as, European war relief. And that was not something that we needed to be a part of at the time, so not big news in America. So Clara Barton continues doing her war relief, which she had actually started as early as 1861. Not doing this because of something that happened in Europe. Again, this is coming out of her own home. So she's doing her own work, and she's not part of an organization, and doesn't find out about Red Cross until after the Civil War has ended. She'd actually traveled to Europe. Franco-Prussian War starts in Europe, and Clara Barton's vacation is, can I help? Working with International Red Cross, the German Red Cross, in the Franco-Prussian War. And what she sees is a real difference between what she had tried to organize herself and what a country with a standing organization can do for the victims of war. Sorry. So she wants to have this organization in America the next time American soldiers were involved in war. Now, who could say what that was? She can't at that period of time, but she wants it here. She comes back to America, starts to promote the idea, and basically finds out that it's not really something the United States government was interested in. It's really felt that we don't need to be a part of this. And it is still viewed as European war relief. So what do Americans need to be involved in European war relief for? We're not at war. We're not going to go to war. And we're not going to go to war with Europe. So we just don't need it. Well, she doesn't really believe that. So she starts trying to figure out how to work around this wall of European war relief. What do we need to do? And it's through Clara Barton the concept of peacetime assistance and natural disaster assistance comes about. Americans have natural disasters that happen all the time, and the United States government did not have a way to respond to those. States don't have a state program to respond to those. So people, of course, help people when bad things happen. But there's no standing organization to meet the needs of communities during these great disasters. So that's what she says the American Red Cross can do. It can help out during the fires, the floods, the hurricanes, tornadoes, and be ready the next time American soldiers are involved in something. Do all this other work in between times. So that gains popular acceptance. She goes on to become founder of the American Red Cross and will then lead the organization for 23 years. And during that time, there is a next time. So when we have the Spanish-American War, the American Red Cross, led by Clara Barton, will go to Cuba to provide for the needs of the victims of war and stand by the sides of the American service personnel who needed help
When
from the
was that?
American Red Cross.
Sorry, what year?
1898. Yep. So that will be her third war. Civil War, Franco-Prussian War, and then the Spanish-American War. It was American Red Cross's first war, but it was her third war.
Do they have government funding, or do you have to do private funding?
It's entirely donations. Yep. So what we do have for the government is a treaty agreement. So that's what she needed to get. And in order to be Red Cross, there had to be that treaty agreement. And that does take the United States government. So she actually started the American Red Cross in the spring. May 21st actually was Founders Day, just last weekend. May 21st of 1881 was when she founded the American Red Cross, but she had assurances from government, from President Garfield, that he would ratify the Treaty of Geneva. And unfortunately, Garfield is one of our presidents who was assassinated. So there's sort of a lag in the time between when he said he would do this, he unfortunately passes on, and then the government picks up with Chester Arthur. So President Arthur is the one who actually ratifies the Treaty of Geneva and signs it, when Congress ratifies it, he signs it. And so we're official in March of 1882, but she had started in May of 1881 and had already done work that summer with upstate Michigan from fires. So she was already helping communities, even though we're not even officially Red Cross. So in order to be part of the international society, a country does have to sign the treaty agreement, the Treaty of Geneva, and function under those rules and regulations. So can a country get out? Yes. Can a government rescind an agreement? Yes. And what would happen then? The American Red Cross would no longer function as American Red Cross. There could still be aid organizations. Clara Barton herself could have been the I'm going to help out during a flood organization, but to be Red Cross, you have to be under that treaty agreement. And that's what she wanted, because she wanted America to be protected in these times of war. She passed away April 12, 1912, and she died of double pneumonia, and is very much. many close friends over the years, but towards the end, unfortunately, one of the things that happens when you're very long-lived is sometimes you outlive those people that were closest to you. And that was kind of what had happened towards the end of her life. So a lot of what she was dealing with, especially even during the time that she was here, were people from much younger generations of hers that were coming into the Red Cross. So it wasn't the same kinship of what she had. The parlors were up front. Generally, if you were here when she was here, when you first walked in the door to come into the house, you would have been shown into this room first. So today, ironically, it's the last room you're seeing. But normally her own guests would have been brought right into the front parlor. This was the main room for entertaining, for receiving company, for sorting out why someone was here, what they wanted, what their purpose of being here was. And it's kind of interesting, even Clara Barton, when she was alive, had people that were here just to see her house and to ask her questions or interview her. She used to get letters written to her by school children that were studying the Civil War, and they wanted the answers to their questions directly from her. So, but this is the room that her guests would have been shown into first.
Did she play the piano?
She did not, but the piano is original. So it had come from one of her cousins, and it was used for receptions that were held in the house. But she herself was not a musician, no. She didn't dance either. So she would go over to Glen Echo when it was functioning as an amusement park. Occasionally they had, it was an all-female orchestra from Boston. I think they were called the Cadets. I can't remember if that's the correct name. That might be my Great Falls all-female orchestra, I can't remember. But it was an all-female orchestra from Boston. And when they would play over in Glen Echo, she would get the whole household over to go over and support them and listen to the concerts over there. But she wasn't a dancer. So. And then the back parlor would be used for the Red Cross staff to give them a place in the evenings to relax and socialize. So not everything was work. Sometimes they did have some time to just sit and talk to each other as well. Dealing with the army men in the field was another issue because she's a woman and she doesn't belong there. What's she doing here? This is crazy. So there were times when she's trying to deal with one thing and the commanding officer's like, no, you're not going to be here. I won't have you here. Fredericksburg in '62, December of '62, she's working at Chatham Manor. She was outside around the manor where the amputations and the men are being treated in the kitchen building. So she goes into the kitchen building to ask the surgeon, could she be of some assistance? And he absolutely refused to have anything to do with any of the female nurses. It was like, no. So she goes back outside and continues what she was doing outside. And then Dr. Dunn, who was over in Fredericksburg, hears that she's over here. So he calls for her, and then so off she goes across the Rappahannock up into Fredericksburg. So, just dealing with all of these different personalities and trying to make what she wants to accomplish happen, she had to learn how to do that. Now, what you're building on top of was the 15 years that she'd been a school teacher. And I think, anybody here a teacher? Want to be a teacher? Yeah. Do you learn how to deal with a whole lot of personalities?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think being the teacher, that you got to deal with children. You got to make children happy. You got to make children want to learn. You got to make children excited about learning. You got to make them not behave and turn their behaviors around. So there's a lot of tricks teachers learn in dealing with the personalities of the students in their classrooms. And she'd been 15 years a teacher, so she has that to build on when dealing with these military men. So it's funny because she just refers to them all as her boys. They're her boys. So she just, in a way, looks at dealing with this personality. Well, what worked for her in dealing with this, and then she can apply it to this. Right? But then the Civil War threw her into a whole different place in society because she does become famous. And then people want to hear her stories. They want her to come and speak. And she spends during her missing soldiers program at the end of the war, she also will spend 2 solid years touring the nation, giving lectures. And we're talking traveling by train back in those days. She will travel as far as Iowa during this lecture tour. I think it was 1867 alone, she delivered over 200 lectures. And a lot of the people who attend these lectures are veterans. So she's meeting with these veterans and she's telling these stories, and she will bring entire rooms full with men to tears with her stories of her battlefield care and what she saw and the suffering that she alleviated. Yeah. So it's just building, every little step builds, every little step builds. But that doesn't mean she doesn't have doors slammed in her face, and that'll go throughout her whole life. She'll still face that discrimination. Spanish-American War. You know, they didn't want her down there. They had a situation with one of the battles. It was on land, it was a land battle, and the Red Cross was there, and the battle was over, so the fighting men had moved on. So the wounded were left behind on the beaches in the sand, and she had gone over to the American side first. So even as American Red Cross, it helps both sides, but she goes to the American side first, and they were literally turned away because there were female American Red Cross nurses. And the American military said, nope, we got this, don't need you. So she goes over to help the wounded Spanish, and within 24 hours, each man was up on a cot and had at least one hot meal. And the Americans are still laying in the sand, and it's now hot and sunny, and there's sun blistering down on them, and there's, you know, the sand crabs are coming out to deal with the wounded. So that's not a good scene. And there were still guys laying there suffering that were having trouble even getting fresh water brought to them. So they actually realized what was happening and asked the Red Cross to come back and help. She is Teddy Roosevelt. She means Teddy Roosevelt. So, you know, he was suffering and in need of stuff for the Rough Riders, and apparently he'd gone into the Red Cross office and, you know, what must I do to have these supplies? How much must I pay? I will pay for these supplies. And she's like, there's no price you can pay. Colonel, there's no price. He's like, what must I do? And he's like, all you must do is ask, Colonel. And so he asked, and they gave him supplies. And the reason we know this story is because the Rough Riders had an embedded journalist with them who wrote this account down, and it was published in the newspapers. And Roosevelt did come across really as a spoiled boy in this little confrontation, and I think he held that against her, because when he's president, he will absolutely turn against her as president of the American Red Cross. So during the power struggle to oust Clara Barton from the American Red Cross, which is primarily led by Mabel Boardman, another woman from the Red Cross, Mabel Boardman was friends with Roosevelt, and she will get Roosevelt to actually publicly state that he had seen what Miss Barton had done in Cuba during the Spanish-American War, and he was not impressed. So if you have the President of the United States saying that the President of the American Red Cross did not do impressive work, wow, where's the support for the American Red Cross going to go with that statement? So Miss Boardman was doing anything she could to get Clara Barton out of her way. And if it meant smearing her, smearing the reputation, she didn't care. She just wanted Clara Barton out of the Red Cross so she could start doing what she wanted to do with the Red Cross. And she gets Theodore Roosevelt to side with her, and he will. And there was another account that the two of them went to a veterans dinner, and they were seated side by side as honored guests. And so the newspapers had said that when Miss Barton was introduced, she received a longer and louder standing ovation than the president himself did. And then they proceeded to sit at the dinner table, and he spoke to everybody on this side of his farm, and she spoke to everybody on this side, and they didn't even converse during the dinner.
What happened with that organization? Did it get absorbed eventually into the Red Cross?
Yeah. So originally she'd actually done first aid under Red Cross in 1903. Sorry. She'd done first aid in Red Cross in 1903. She's out in 1904. Boardman shuts the program down. So there's nothing going on with it. That's why Clara Barton starts it up on her own. By 1907, 1908, certainly by 1909, Red Cross is doing it again, because they kind of looked at what First Aid Association was doing and went back to, we should be doing that. And so she starts telling her her first aiders that they need to go with Red Cross. So the program, she doesn't want two competing programs, and she wants it to be a Red Cross program. That's where it was meant to be in the beginning. So now that they're willing to come back around to it, she doesn't care who gets credit for it. And she is not credited for it, ironically, in the history of the American Red Cross, because they credit the people who did the program when they started the program back up. So that I can't remember the person who's the father of Red Cross First Aid, but there's a different person. So she didn't get credit for it anyhow, which but she didn't care about that. She just wants it to be a program given to the American people. So, you know, one door slams, just go over here and see what you can open up another one and run with it. That's what she tried to do.
So the house is directly on the other side of this tree line, and there's a parking lot right over here for the Glen Echo Promenade.